Keep watching if you want to find out what red flags to watch out for. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for watching my previous video on how to ace your UX interview. Today I'll be talking about red flags in any interview really, but more so for the product realm and sort of the tech space. Number one, they're late. And there's no good reason for it. They just had you waiting. You were there early, you were there prepared, and they just had you waiting. That is actually one of the telltale signs that the company is disorganized, that there was no one really anticipating you. Unless there was a crazy emergency, there should be no reason why anybody is late to interview you. Number two, this is my favorite one because it sounds very, very enticing at first, and that's when they try to sell you on culture. They tell you that we have great kitchen, we have catered lunches, we have foosball tables, we have bean bags, we have nap pods, we have whatever you can name it, they have. And that's not always the greatest sign. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love my free cup of coffee and my snacks in the afternoon, but if that's their only selling point to you, you almost have to wonder, what else are they trying to hide to cover up all the perks that they give you? Even Facebook and Google, some of the biggest tech players in the industry have these amazing campuses, but that's because they want you to stay at work, working for as long as possible, but not feel like it's dreadful. So watch out for those. I'm not saying that it's a necessarily always bad thing, but if that's the only thing that they're pushing on is that we have this amazing culture, we have beer carts every Friday, then just make sure that they're offering you more than just the perks of being at the company. Number three, work hard, play hard. If those words are mentioned in your UX interview or any interview, that to me is a red flag in interviews, because that means that they're trying to say that you're gonna work really hard, you're gonna work late hours, but don't worry, we'll buy your $20 dinner just so that you feel a little slight bit better staying behind those late nights and not having a real work-life balance. So again, with the startup culture, especially in tech, you are gonna put in some longer hours here and there, but it shouldn't be an off-balance mix of work and play. It shouldn't be that you're working your ass off some days and then you're playing really hard to make up for that. So that's another red flag to look out for. One thing that I've grown weary is actually unlimited vacation. That in and of itself is not always a red flag, but the red flags come about when you're trying to decipher, well, what will I get paid for? There's unlimited vacation, but does that mean I get to leave for months at a time and then essentially become a remote worker? How does that work? How does it work with carryover? If I don't use up my unlimited vacation, the next year will I just get more unlimited vacation? So make sure when a company that you work for or you're interviewing for tells you that they have an unlimited vacation policy, what that really means in terms of what you get paid for, what you will not get paid for, how long you're allowed to leave at any given time, how long you have to work to get certain hours off. So those are really good questions to ask when people say they have unlimited vacation. Because most time after a little bit of digging, you'll find out that it's not actually unlimited, unconditional. There's definitely going to be conditions that you need to figure out by asking those questions. One thing that I'm wary of is when they don't ask about you. They don't ask what your background is. They don't ask what you like to do for fun, what your journey is, what your story is, how you got to where you got today. And that just simply tells me that they're not interested in you as a person. They're interested in filling a resource or trying to fill a position that work is not being done in right now. And that is not really a good telltale sign of someone that's investing in a person. It's more of just that just makes you feel like you're a disposable resource, which you shouldn't feel like. You should feel like you're investing in this company as much as the company is investing in you. The next red flag is having to do with salary. And it's always customary for interviewers to ask, what is your salary range? What are you looking for? And it's not so much that question is a red flag, it's more so questions like, what's the lowest you will accept? Or if they do lowball you and give you a very low number, and when you counter, they say they don't have the resource for it, would you consider a lower salary? That to me is a red flag that they obviously are looking to pay for the lowest dollar available, and maybe it's a budget restraint. And that just tells me that either A, they haven't done their market research, or maybe you haven't done your market research. So that's a red flag that either one of you need to brush up on your homework and figure out what is the market value for your particular experience and or what the role is asking of the potential candidate. The next red flag that I am sometimes flabbergasted some of my colleagues still encounter today is that they don't get to meet the team. And not to say that you get to meet the team off the bat. Most of the times your first or second interview is going to be with the talent acquisition manager or whoever's hiring for the role. But if you don't get to meet your team and the people that you'll be spending 8+ hours a day with every single day, and if it's a company that you love and that's not part of their current hiring process, there's nothing stopping you from actually reaching out and asking them and requesting that you get to meet the team. And that's to ensure that you are really vetting the culture fit, the personality fit, and just to get a glimpse of who you'll be working with for the long run. The next red flag is if they ghost you. And what is ghosting in this case? It's to disappear completely after your first conversation or second conversation. It's probably worse after the second conversation if they don't get back to you at all. And again, it won't be maybe within a few hours, but at least a few days, and you don't hear back and you constantly have to reach out to them, then that's a red flag that A, they're disorganized, B, they're not interested in you and they can't spend 5 minutes writing you an email saying so. Or number 3, they're just so behind on their work that they haven't even gotten around to that. And I'm not sure about you, but I don't necessarily want to wait around for companies that work at that speed or are not that efficiently organized. And lastly, it's just plain rude. The fact that you took time to speak with them on either one occasion or multiple occasions, there was some sort of energy exchange, and to completely walk away with that with no closure and not even saying sorry, where you're not the right fit, or thinking of another direction to hire. It really doesn't take that much energy, but it's actually those small gestures that make those worthwhile companies stand out. Then there's red flags that kind of just pop up through the questions that the employer asks or the hiring manager asks. And that's those types of questions that have nothing to do with either your work or your personality or character at work, and basically just anything that's just inappropriate. And at this point, I hope you do recognize it, because sometimes in the moment we feel like we just have to answer and that, if we don't, we won't get this role. But really bring that awareness into the interview and say, if there's anything inappropriate asked, feel free to say, I'm not comfortable answering that, or let me think about that and I'll get back to you. Because there's nothing to say that you need to answer everything in that moment, and sometimes there is a little bit more poise in, not necessarily stalling an answer, but saying that I need a little bit of time to think of, the appropriate answer for that. If it's something that's completely curveball. I mean, if it's something like, tell me how you got to where you are today, then no, you're not gonna wait to write an email about that. And so if there is any inappropriate questions asked, feel free to say, I'm not comfortable answering, or I would prefer to answer at a later time. And then lastly, they don't ask what you're looking for. And this is a tricky one, because I have been in a few interviews that haven't really asked me this, but it was more me going into the interview knowing that I was already interested in the position. But it's always nice to get asked, what are you looking for as an interviewee? What are you looking for in your next position? That should really tell you as an interviewee, person getting interviewed, that the company cares about if there is a two-way fit or not. Or they're just, again, simply checking off a box, checking off a resource, and not really investing in you as a person. Because if it was, let's say, a product company and your answers was, I'm looking to be a director at an agency in the next 5 to 10 years, then the company would find out that maybe it's not such a great fit. Not because they wouldn't love to have you on, but maybe because they can't offer you that type of experience that will get you to where you want to be. And so to have that honest conversation and to have that person or the company ask you that is actually a bonus on their part. But that tells you that they are looking for long-term commitments from people and not just someone to get the job done this week, this month, this year, and that they're willing to get you to where you possibly want to be. Because let's face it, we're not at the same company forever and ever. Some are. I mean, I've known people that are at the same company for 30 plus years, but that's becoming rare and fewer and far in between nowadays, especially with how fast the tech industry is growing. And so if the company doesn't really show that they're invested in you as much as you are going to be invested in them, then I would say that's a huge red flag, but sometimes not so obvious. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe until it lets me know that you are interested in the videos. If there's a thumbs up that you can throw me, comment. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter.